What if the meal your body needs after 50 is not hidden in a supplement bottle at all? Not in a powder with a shiny label? Not in a complicated meal plan that makes you count every bite? Not in another promise that says you must give up bread, fruit, fat, sweetness, and every food that ever made the table feel like home? What if the pattern was already sitting in scripture thousands of years ago? Cucumber with mint and yogurt, garlic and herb lentil soup, pomegranate and barley, dates stuffed with nuts, grapes with goat cheese and herbs, roasted lamb with dates, figs with almonds, chickpeas with olives, barley bread dipped in olive oil, and the great 7 sacred foods feast bowl: wheat, barley, grapes, figs, pomegranates, olives, and dates. These were not luxury meals invented by people with too much time and perfect kitchens. They were foods of heat, hunger, harvest, family, worship, travel, labour, celebration, weakness, strength, and survival. And here's the part that matters for Americans over 50. Many people are not tired because they're lazy. They're tired because their meals keep sending the wrong signals. Too much quick sugar, too little fibre, too much soft, refined food, too little real chewing, too many snacks that entertain the mouth but leave the body asking for help 2 hours later. And then people blame age for everything: the afternoon crash, the slow digestion, the heavy stomach after meals, the craving at night, the stiff morning, the feeling that the body is somehow running but not being truly nourished. Let us keep this honest from the beginning. No meal in this video replaces medical care. No food cures disease instantly. No bowl of lentils, piece of bread, date, fig, grape, lamb, yogurt, or olive oil gives anyone permission to stop medication or ignore symptoms. This video is for education and general interest. If you have diabetes, kidney disease, liver disease, digestive disease, heart problems, allergies, gallbladder issues, swallowing problems, or if you take prescription medicine, speak with a qualified professional before changing your diet in a serious way. But food still matters. Daily food matters. The ordinary plate matters more than most people think. Because after 50, the body becomes less forgiving of confusion. It wants structure, protein, fibre, healthy fats, fermented foods when tolerated, natural sweetness with boundaries, slow carbohydrates instead of constant sugar, colour from plants, herbs that wake the mouth and make simple food feel alive. And that is why these 10 biblical-inspired meals are worth studying, not as magic, as patterns. The first meal is the cucumber mint yogurt bowl. At first, it almost feels too simple to take seriously. Cool cucumber, thick plain yogurt, fresh mint, a little salt, maybe a drizzle of olive oil, maybe a small amount of garlic if your stomach handles it well. That is all. But picture the world where this kind of food makes sense. A hot day, dry air, a body that has been working outside, a table where heavy food would feel like punishment. In that setting, cucumber and yogurt are not boring, they are relief. Cucumbers are mentioned in the Bible when the Israelites remember the foods of Egypt. Milk, curds, and fermented dairy belong deeply to the older food world of the region, even if the exact modern word yogurt came later. Mint is mentioned among herbs, and herbs were not just decoration, they were aroma, bitterness, freshness, digestion, memory. For the modern American over 50, this bowl may answer a problem that does not sound dramatic, but feels real. Morning heaviness, a dry mouth, a stomach that wakes up slowly, a breakfast habit built on coffee, toast, sugar, and speed. Many people start the day with stimulation before nourishment. Coffee first, a sweet bite, maybe nothing at all. Then by late morning, the body feels a little off, and nobody connects it back to the first signal of the day. A cucumber mint yogurt bowl sends a different message. Cool down, hydrate, bring in protein, bring in live cultures if the yogurt contains them, bring in herbs instead of more sweetness. Plain yogurt can provide protein, calcium, and, if it is not heat treated after fermentation, beneficial bacteria that may support gut balance. Cucumber brings water and crunch. Mint makes the whole meal feel lighter. Olive oil adds satisfaction. Garlic, used carefully, adds depth and old-world flavour. But the word plain matters. Sweetened yogurt with candy-like flavours is not the same meal. That is dessert wearing a health costume. And yogurt is not for everyone. People with dairy allergy should avoid it. People with lactose intolerance may need lactose-free yogurt or another cultured option. People with histamine sensitivity may react to fermented foods. So the lesson is not that everyone must eat yogurt. The lesson is that after 50, the body often appreciates food that is cooling, simple and alive. Not everything has to push you. Some meals should calm you. The second meal is garlic and herb lentil soup. This one feels older the moment you say it. Lentils in a pot, garlic warming in olive oil, herbs rising with steam. A bowl that does not look expensive but somehow feels dependable. Lentils are one of the most famous foods in Scripture because of the story of Esau selling his birthright for a bowl of red stew. That story is not only about food, it is about hunger, impulse, and the danger of trading something lasting for something immediate. But the stew itself matters too. Lentils were humble food, cheap, storable, filling, faster to cook than many beans, useful when life was hard and hunger was real. They provide plant protein, fibre, iron, folate, potassium, and slow carbohydrates. In a modern kitchen, they can become one of the best answers to the question many people over 50 ask every day without saying it out loud. What can I eat that will not leave me hungry, sleepy, or craving sugar an hour later? Add garlic and herbs, and the meal changes. Garlic has been valued for centuries. Cut it open, and the kitchen knows food is coming. Warm it gently, and it becomes deep, savoury, almost sweet. Garlic contains sulfur compounds that researchers study in connection with heart health markers, immune pathways, and antimicrobial effects in laboratory settings. That does not turn lentil soup into medicine, but it helps explain why garlic became so respected in food traditions. Herbs do the same thing in a quieter way. Parsley brightens, thyme deepens, rosemary anchors, cumin warms. A squeeze of lemon at the end wakes everything up. For Americans over 50, this soup has a practical gift. It can replace a weak lunch. Not a lunch that looks weak, a lunch that behaves weak. A processed sandwich, chips, a soda, a sweet coffee, a snack pretending to be a meal. It fills the moment, but does not carry the afternoon. Garlic lentil soup carries. It gives the gut fibre. It gives the muscles amino acids, even if it is plant-based. It gives the mouth warmth. It gives the body a slow release of energy, and it can be cooked in a large pot, stored, reheated, and shared. That last part matters. Biblical food was rarely lonely food. It belonged to pots, tables, families, work, travel, and neighbours. Of course, lentils require wisdom. If your gut is not used to legumes, start small. Too much too quickly can bring gas and discomfort. Cook them until soft. Use spices. Let the body adapt. Garlic can bother reflux or sensitive stomachs in some people, so adjust it. But when this soup works, it becomes one of the most practical meals on the list. It teaches that cheap food can become rich food when it has structure, seasoning, and patience. The third meal is the pomegranate and barley grain bowl. This is where the ancient table becomes beautiful. Barley was not glamorous. Barley was the grain of ordinary people. Ruth gleaned in barley fields. Barley loaves appear in the feeding of the 5,000. It was humble, dependable, and close to the ground. Pomegranate is different. A pomegranate looks like it is hiding treasure, hard outside, red seeds inside, a fruit that almost seems designed to make a person slow down. Pomegranates appear in the biblical world not only as food, but as decoration in sacred settings, priestly garments, and temple imagery. That tells us the fruit carried meaning, abundance, beauty, fruitfulness, design. Now put barley and pomegranate together, humble grain and sacred fruit, earth and jewel, slow energy and tart brightness. A modern bowl might start with cooked barley. Add pomegranate seeds, chopped cucumber, parsley, mint, olive oil, lemon, and a small handful of walnuts or almonds. Add chickpeas if you need more protein. Add a little goat cheese if you tolerate dairy. Now listen to what that bowl does. It makes you chew. It makes you notice texture, soft grain, popping seeds, fresh herbs, oil, acid, a little crunch. This matters because many modern meals are too soft, too sweet, and too fast. They disappear before the body understands what happened. Then hunger returns, not always because the person needed more food, but because the meal did not give enough signals. Barley contains beta-glucan, a soluble fibre studied for cholesterol support and blood sugar response when eaten as part of a healthy pattern. Pomegranate contains polyphenols, including punicalagins and anthocyanins, studied for antioxidant and blood vessel-related effects. No miracle claims, just serious food. For people after 50, this bowl is especially interesting because it brings together two needs: steady carbohydrates and plant colour. Aging is not only about wrinkles and grey hair, it is also about oxidative stress, blood vessel changes, slower recovery, and digestion that may need more fibre than it used to. Barley and pomegranate answer that with a bowl, not a lecture. People with celiac disease or gluten sensitivity should avoid barley because it contains gluten. People with blood sugar concerns still need portion control. But for many people, this forgotten grain deserves a second look. This meal teaches that biblical food was not dull, it was earthy and bright at the same time. The fourth meal is dates stuffed with nuts. This is the one for the person who wants something sweet at night and does not want another lecture about willpower. Dates are ancient energy food, sweet, dense, portable, and perfectly suited to desert life. Date palms meant food in dry places. The fruit could be dried, carried, stored, shared, and eaten when quick energy was needed. But dates can also fool modern people. Because they are natural, people assume unlimited amounts must be fine. No, dates are rich in natural sugars. They also contain fibre, potassium, and plant compounds, but they are concentrated sweetness. After 50, especially for people with blood sugar concerns, portion matters. That is why stuffing dates with nuts is so wise. A plain date gives sweetness. A date with walnuts, almonds, or pistachios gives sweetness with structure. Fat, crunch, a little protein, a slower experience. Split the date open, remove the pit, tuck in a walnut, add cinnamon if you like, maybe a tiny bit of goat cheese for a sweet, salty bite. 1 or 2 can feel rich, 10 becomes a problem. That line is the whole lesson. After 50, many people do not need a life without sweetness. They need sweetness that knows its place. This matters because strict denial often fails. A person gives up every dessert, every treat, every food that feels comforting. They last for a while. Then one hard evening comes along and the pantry wins. Dates with nuts offer a better pattern. Not endless sugar, not joyless restriction. A small portion, real texture, pleasure with a boundary. Ancient sweetness was precious. Modern sweetness is everywhere. That difference changes how we must use it. A stuffed date can replace candy. It can end a meal. It can travel in a lunchbox. It can make the mouth feel satisfied without turning the whole evening into a sugar hunt. This meal teaches that pleasure is not the enemy. Uncontrolled pleasure is. The fifth meal is a grape and goat cheese plate with herbs. This one feels like a board set out before family arrives. Grapes, goat cheese, fresh herbs, olives, maybe a few nuts, maybe a small piece of barley bread on the side. Grapes and vineyards fill biblical imagery. Grapes meant harvest, wine, blessing, celebration, warning, labour and land. They were not just fruit, they were livelihood and symbol. Goat cheese belongs naturally to a pastoral world. Goats were practical animals. Milk could become curds, cheese or fermented foods. In a warm climate without modern refrigeration, milk had to be handled wisely. For people over 50, this plate can solve the snack problem. Not hunger exactly, the snack problem. That strange habit of eating little bits all day without ever feeling truly fed. Crackers, chips, sweet coffee, a bite of cheese, another cracker, a handful of something. Then dinner comes, and the person cannot explain why they are still unsatisfied. A grape and goat cheese plate is different because it is intentional. A few grapes bring sweetness. Goat cheese brings tangy richness, fat and some protein. Herbs bring freshness. Olives bring saltiness and healthy fats. Nuts bring crunch. You arrange it, you sit down, you eat slowly, you stop. That is not a small change. It turns grazing into a meal. Portions matter, of course. Grapes are sweet. Cheese can be salty and rich. People with dairy intolerance need alternatives. People watching sodium or saturated fat should be mindful. But the structure is smart. Fruit with protein, sweet with tangy, rich with fresh, soft with crisp. This meal teaches that pleasure can be organised, and organised pleasure is much easier to keep than strict denial. The sixth meal is roasted lamb with dates and herbs. Now we arrive at the feast. Lamb carries deep biblical meaning. It appears in pastoral life, Passover memory, sacrifices, family meals, and spiritual symbolism. It was never just meat. It carried story, identity, and sacred memory. In the modern American kitchen, lamb is not always an everyday food. It can be expensive. Some people love the flavour, some are not used to it. But as a special meal, it has weight. Roasted lamb with dates and herbs brings savoury depth, natural sweetness, and fragrance together. Rosemary, thyme, mint, parsley, garlic, onion, cumin, coriander, and cinnamon can all belong depending on the style. The point is not to eat a mountain of meat. The point is to understand what feast food should do. After 50, protein matters. Muscle maintenance becomes more important with age. Many people eat enough calories, but not enough high-quality protein spread through the day. Lamb provides protein, iron, zinc, and B vitamins. But context changes everything. A huge plate of fatty meat with no fibre and no vegetables is one thing. A moderate portion of lamb with herbs, chickpeas, barley, cucumber yogurt, or salad is another. Dates in the dish should act like seasoning, not dessert poured over dinner. A few chopped dates can balance herbs and make the meal feel festive without taking over. This meal teaches something modern health culture often forgets. A feast has a place. A table should have joy. Not every meal must feel like a punishment or a math problem. But a feast works because it is special. If every day becomes feast day, the body pays the bill. Roasted lamb with dates and herbs teaches that celebration becomes healthier when it returns to balance afterward. The seventh meal is figs and almonds. This one feels quiet, almost like peace in food form. Few foods feel as biblical as figs. The fig tree appears again and again in Scripture. Sitting under one's own vine and fig tree became an image of peace and security. Fig leaves appear at the beginning of Genesis. Jesus uses the fig tree in teaching. The fig was part of daily life and spiritual imagination. Figs are soft, sweet, seedy and rich. Fresh figs are delicate. Dried figs are concentrated and portable. Almonds also carry biblical memory. Aaron's rod buds with almond blossoms. The almond tree is one of the first to bloom, which gives it a sense of awakening and watchfulness. Put figs and almonds together. Sweet fruit, crunchy nut, fibre, fat, minerals, chewing, satisfaction. This is the kind of snack that makes the body participate. It does not dissolve instantly like candy. It does not vanish like a soft cookie. It asks for teeth, tongue, time, and that is useful after 50. A couple of dried figs with almonds can calm a sweet craving better than processed candy because the texture and fat make the sweetness feel complete. But again, portions matter. Dried fruit is concentrated, nuts are calorie dense. People with blood sugar concerns should be careful. People with dental issues may need softer forms or smaller bites. The goal is small and intentional. 2 figs, a small handful of almonds, maybe cinnamon, maybe unsweetened tea. Enough. That word matters. Enough. Many modern snacks are designed to make enough hard to feel. Figs and almonds, used wisely, can bring that feeling back. This meal teaches that a snack should not only entertain your mouth, it should help you arrive at the next meal without chaos. The 8th meal is chickpea and olive salad. This is one of the most practical meals in the entire list. Chickpeas, also called garbanzo beans, are deeply rooted in Middle Eastern and Mediterranean cooking. Legumes helped ordinary people survive because they were filling, storable, affordable, and nourishing. A chickpea and olive salad can be made with chickpeas, chopped cucumber, parsley, mint, olives, red onion, olive oil, lemon, and maybe cumin. No complicated technique, no special machine, just a bowl that holds up. That matters for American life after 50 because many people need a lunch that travels, something that can sit in the refrigerator, something that can go into a container, something that does not require reheating, something better than another processed sandwich. Chickpeas bring fibre and plant protein. Olives and olive oil bring monounsaturated fats and polyphenols. Herbs bring aroma. Lemon brings brightness. This salad fills without burying you. That is a rare thing. Too many lunches either leave you hungry or make you sleepy. Chickpea and olive salad can sit in the middle, satisfying, bright and steady. If canned chickpeas are used, rinse them to reduce sodium. If beans bother your digestion, begin with a small portion. Cooked chickpeas should be tender, not hard. The salad should feel generous, not punishing. One of the best things about this meal is that it improves after sitting for a little while. The oil, lemon, herbs and chickpeas begin to know each other. That sounds simple. It is simple. Simple is not the same as weak. Chickpea and olive salad teaches that practical food can still feel fresh, bright and alive. The 9th meal is barley bread with olive oil. This may be the most important everyday meal in the entire video. Bread and oil. So simple that modern people almost miss the wisdom. Bread appears everywhere in Scripture. Daily bread, shared bread, unleavened bread, bread in the wilderness, bread broken at the table. Barley bread especially belonged to ordinary people. It was humble, dense, and useful. Olive oil was food, light, anointing, care, symbol, and survival. It came from trees that could survive difficult land and live for generations. The olive had to be pressed before oil appeared. Pressure becoming nourishment. That image alone is enough to remember. But modern bread has changed. Many supermarket breads are soft, sweet, refined, and designed to disappear quickly. Ancient breads were often denser, rougher, less sweet, and made from whole grains. Barley bread has weight. It asks for chewing. It pairs with olive oil, herbs, lentil soup, cucumber yogurt, chickpea salad, goat cheese, or lamb. For people after 50, bread can become confusing. Some feel better reducing it. Some tolerate it well. Some must avoid gluten completely. Some eat refined bread alone and feel hungry or tired soon after. So the question is not only bread or no bread, it is what kind of bread, how much, and with what. Bread alone behaves one way. Bread with olive oil, protein, herbs, and fibre behaves differently. People with celiac disease or gluten sensitivity should avoid barley because it contains gluten. People with blood sugar concerns need portion awareness. But for those who tolerate it, barley bread with olive oil can restore the dignity of daily bread. Not bread as a mindless snack, bread as part of a meal. This meal teaches that daily food does not have to be complicated to be wise. Now we reach the 10th meal, the 7 sacred foods feast bowl. This is the meal I wanted to save for the end, because it is not only another bowl, it is the map hidden inside the whole video. The 7 species of the land described in Deuteronomy are wheat, barley, grapes, figs, pomegranates, olives, and honey, often understood in that context as date honey. Wheat, barley, grapes, figs, pomegranates, olives, dates. Grain, fruit, oil, sweetness, fibre, colour, memory. If you want one meal that gathers the biblical food pattern into a modern bowl, this is it. A base of cooked barley or cracked wheat, a few grapes or raisins, chopped figs or dates, pomegranate seeds, olives, fresh herbs, olive oil, maybe chickpeas for protein, maybe yogurt on the side, maybe roasted lamb on a feast day. What makes this bowl powerful is not one ingredient, it is the pattern. Modern health culture keeps chasing the hero food. One seed, one fruit, one powder, one drink, one hack, one miracle breakfast. Ancient food wisdom was not built that way. It was built in combinations. Grain for energy, legumes for protein and fibre, olive oil for fat and flavour, fruit for sweetness and plant compounds, herbs for aroma, fermented dairy for culture, meat for special meals, nuts for density. The 7 Sacred Foods Bowl teaches the deepest lesson of the entire video. The body does not only need nutrients, it needs order. After 50, order matters more than ever because the body becomes less forgiving of chaos. A sugary breakfast, a skipped lunch, a heavy dinner, a late dessert, a few snacks nobody counts, another coffee, another piece of bread, another sweet drink. Then the person says, "Why do I feel so tired?" The 7 foods answer with structure. Slow grain, measured sweetness, bright fruit, good oil, chewing, memory, a table. This meal does not need to promise instant healing. Its power is that it brings the whole pattern together. Now imagine a full day built from these meals. Morning could begin with cucumber mint yogurt or a small piece of barley bread with olive oil and herbs. Lunch could be garlic and herb lentil soup with chickpea and olive salad. Afternoon could be dates stuffed with nuts, or figs and almonds with unsweetened tea. Dinner could be roasted lamb with dates and herbs, served with pomegranate and barley grain bowl. On a special day, the 7 sacred foods feast bowl could sit in the centre of the table, bright with pomegranate seeds, olives, figs, dates and grain. That does not feel like punishment, it feels generous. And that matters because many people after 50 are tired of diets that make them afraid of food. Fear bread, fear fruit, fear fat, fear sweetness, fear celebration, fear the table. But biblical inspired eating is not about fear. It is about order. Bread has a place. Oil has a place. Fruit has a place. Sweetness has a place. Meat has a place. Beans have a place. Fermented foods have a place. The problem is not always the food itself. The problem is when everything loses its place. Sugar becomes constant. Bread becomes soft and endless. Snacks replace meals. Oil becomes cheap and hidden. Fruit becomes juice. Meat becomes oversized. Meals become rushed. The old pattern asks you to slow down and rebuild the table. That may be the real healing, not a cure, a return to order. Now, let us make this practical. If digestion feels slow, start with cucumber mint yogurt if you tolerate dairy, or garlic lentil soup in a small portion. If energy crashes in the afternoon, try pomegranate barley or chickpea olive salad instead of a sweet snack. If nighttime cravings are your problem, try dates stuffed with nuts or figs with almonds, but keep the portion small. If bread is your weakness, try barley bread with olive oil, protein and herbs instead of soft bread alone. If you want a meaningful feast, make roasted lamb with dates and herbs, but build the plate with vegetables, grains and herbs around it. If you want the whole pattern in one meal, make the 7 sacred foods feast bowl. One meal, not all 10, one meal this week. That is how change begins without drama. Now we return to the question from the beginning. Which of these biblical inspired meals is the most complete for people after 50? The 7 sacred foods feast bowl. Not because it is magic, because it teaches the full pattern. Wheat and barley remind us that grains should have substance. Grapes and figs remind us that sweetness can come from fruit, not constant processed sugar. Pomegranate reminds us that colour matters. Olives and olive oil remind us that fat can nourish when it comes from the right source. Dates remind us that sweetness should be precious, not endless. Put them together and you get a very different message than fast food gives your body. Slow down, chew, receive fibre, receive colour, receive oil, receive sweetness with structure, receive memory. That is why this meal belongs at the end. It is not the strangest, it is not the most expensive, it is the most complete. And after 50, completeness matters. Not one nutrient, not one trend, a complete pattern. Think about your own table. How often does your meal include something fermented, something fibrous, something colourful, something with healthy fat, something with protein, something herbal, something naturally sweet but measured? How often do you eat in a way that gives your body a clear signal instead of a confused one? That is where change begins. A cucumber mint yogurt bowl says cool down and digest. Garlic and herb lentil soup says be steady. Pomegranate and barley grain bowl says slow energy and colour. Dates stuffed with nuts say sweetness with boundaries. Grape and goat cheese plate with herbs says pleasure with balance. Roasted lamb with dates and herbs says feast with meaning. Figs and almonds say chew your sweetness. Chickpea and olive salad says fibre can be bright. Barley bread with olive oil says daily bread can still be wise. The 7 sacred foods feast bowl says remember the whole pattern. These meals are not here to replace medicine. They are here to replace confusion. And for many people, that is already a powerful beginning. So this week, choose one. Make the cucumber mint yogurt bowl if you need something light. Make the garlic and herb lentil soup if you want a steady lunch. Make the chickpea and olive salad if you need a meal that travels. Make dates stuffed with nuts if nighttime sugar cravings keep winning. Make barley bread with olive oil if bread is your comfort. Or make the 7 sacred foods feast bowl if you want to feel the whole ancient pattern in one meal. Start simple. Eat slowly. Watch how your body responds. The goal is not to recreate every ancient meal exactly. We live in a different world. We have different bodies, different work, different stress, different medicine, and a different food supply. The goal is to learn from the pattern: real food, natural sweetness, fiber, protein, fermentation, olive oil, herbs, a slower table. That is where biblical nutrition becomes practical for modern life, especially after 50. Because after 50, you are not trying to punish your body into youth. You are trying to support the body that carried you this far, with respect, with patience, with better meals, with food that has memory. There is another reason these meals matter for the American audience after 50. They are not strange for the sake of being strange. Most of them can be made with ordinary ingredients from a grocery store: cucumbers, yogurt, garlic, lentils, barley, pomegranate, dates, nuts, grapes, cheese, lamb, figs, chickpeas, olives, bread, olive oil, herbs. Nothing here requires a private chef or a kitchen full of expensive gadgets. And that matters because a healthy routine that depends on rare ingredients usually dies fast. People try it once, then life gets busy, then the ingredient runs out, then the habit disappears. A better meal has to fit real life. A retiree cooking for one, a couple trying to eat better without wasting food, a grandmother making something simple for the family, a man who does not want a complicated recipe but can open a can of chickpeas, chop herbs and pour olive oil, a person who wants to feel better without feeling like every meal has become a medical project. That is the beauty of these 10 meals. They do not ask for perfection. They ask for a return to common sense. Use grains with texture. Use fruit as sweetness. Use beans and lentils for steadiness. Use olive oil for richness. Use herbs for flavor. Use nuts to slow down sugar. Use fermented foods if your body accepts them. Use meat as part of a meaningful plate, not the entire plate. That sounds simple because it is. But simple does not mean easy. Simple requires repeating, and repeating is where health changes. One cucumber yogurt bowl will not rebuild a life. One bowl of lentils will not undo years of rushed meals. One stuffed date will not fix every sugar craving. But a pattern repeated week after week can change the way the body feels around food. You begin to notice that steady meals make cravings quieter. You notice that enough protein at lunch changes the afternoon. You notice that fiber is not a punishment, it is a form of support. You notice that sweetness feels better when it comes with nuts, fruit, or a meal instead of arriving alone. You notice that bread is more satisfying when it has weight and a place on the plate. You notice that olive oil and herbs can make vegetables and grains feel generous. This is how the old table becomes modern again. Not by pretending we live in tents or ancient villages, by taking the pattern and bringing it into the kitchen we actually have. The refrigerator, the pantry, the weekday lunch, the Sunday meal, the small snack before bed, the family table. This is where the idea becomes useful. Because the point of biblical food is not nostalgia. The point is wisdom that still works when stripped of exaggeration. And the wisdom is clear. The body likes meals that have order. A meal with order gives you something different than a snack shelf does. It gives the stomach time to understand. It gives the blood sugar less chaos. It gives the gut microbes something to work with. It gives the mouth satisfaction. It gives the mind the feeling that eating is not a battle. That last part is important. Many people after 50 have spent decades fighting food, dieting, quitting, starting over, feeling guilty, eating in secret, promising to be strict tomorrow. But a biblical inspired plate does not begin with guilt. It begins with gratitude. Food as provision, food as rhythm, food as a table, not a punishment. And maybe that is why these meals still speak so strongly. They are not only about the body, they are about how the body is treated, rushed or respected, confused or nourished, punished or guided. If you remember one thing from this video, remember this. After 50, the best meal is not always the newest meal. Sometimes it is the meal that reminds the body what food is supposed to do. Satisfy, strengthen, steady, slow you down, bring you back to the table. That is the kind of healing we can speak about safely and honestly. Not instant cure, not a promise, a return. And sometimes a return is exactly where restoration begins. Now tell me in the comments, which of these biblical meals would you try first? Garlic lentil soup, cucumber mint yogurt, barley bread with olive oil, stuffed dates, roasted lamb, or the 7 sacred foods feast bowl? And if you want more videos about biblical foods, ancient meals, and simple natural traditions that still speak to modern health, subscribe to the channel, because the next forgotten meal may already be sitting in your kitchen.